Welcome to the Nourishing Women podcast, your go-to podcast to get your period back and get pregnant. I'm Victoria Myers, your peer recovery specialist and fertility dietitian and owner of the virtual coaching practice, Nourishing Minds Nutrition, where we work together to restore your fertility. Today, I am so excited to share this episode with you because I have a past client, Morgan, on the show today to share her personal story. What I think you're going to resonate with so much in Morgan's story is the way that being a college athlete, coupled with researching and learning a lot about the right way to diet and how to eat your healthiest, led for her to years of period loss, getting her period back, losing it again. And you'll see the cycle of that in her episode today. And she shares with us in this episode how when she was ready to get her period back so that she could get pregnant, her doctors really sent her down an unhelpful course of immediately jumping to recommending fertility treatments, recommending fertility medication, and really fear-mongering her into believing that something was wrong with her fertility when in fact what she really needed was to heal the root cause of her period loss. In her case, which is likely true in yours, it was related to the years of dieting, the years of over-exercising, and the stress she was putting on her body. So not only did we do a root cause investigation on functional labs and a tailored fertility and period comeback plan so that she could both get her period back and get pregnant, and you'll learn about that in this episode, but it was also customized to help her heal her relationship with food and exercise so that not only she could get her period back now and get pregnant now, but also so that she could have a healthy relationship with food and exercise in the postpartum to be able to get her period back then, get pregnant again, to get her health back. And also, just as importantly for Morgan, she wanted to be a really healthy role model to these kids she's working so hard to make of what a healthy relationship with food and exercise looks like. You'll learn all about that and so much more in today's episode. Without further ado, let's jump into this incredible guest episode with client Morgan. Hello, Morgan. Welcome to the Nourishing Women podcast. I cannot tell you how excited I am that you're here with me today.
Thank you. Me too.
So Morgan is being so brave today coming on the podcast. I know it's a little intimidating coming on, but we so appreciate you taking the time out of your day to share your message because you have such a powerful story and you are also currently 26 weeks pregnant. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
So we're going to kind of walk through your journey today from, it sounds like things started off in college to losing your period to then the journey to getting your period back and getting pregnant. We're going to talk all through it. Let's just start with, where do you feel like your relationship with food and exercise, when did it begin to change? Like what moment would you say that things started to be different for you?
Yeah. I think going into freshman year of college, I was an athlete. I played volleyball, and right away, when you're getting there, there's a lot of body comp, and just you become really aware of all the numbers and all the nutritional things you're supposed to be following. And I think at that point in my life, I had never really read nutrition labels, or I wasn't so focused on the calorie in, calorie out and what the numbers were saying on a body comp that when I was faced with that, that was like where those first thoughts start to creep in. And I think from there, it kind of just like grew in my thought pattern.
Yeah, and you were also, like you said, you were doing this because you were an athlete. Do you think being an athlete also contributed to that? Because not only is there body comps and discussion of nutrition, but there's also a lot of exercise. I would imagine so, at least.
Yeah, definitely.
So then walk me through then. So it kind of started freshman year of college. What was it like to the point where you lost your period? Because I know you shared with me you didn't lose your period until a few years later. Walk me through kind of what your relationship with food and exercise was like leading up to that, and then as you were losing your period too.
Yeah, so those first few years before I lost my period, I think I was just starting to learn what the so-called like healthy eating was. I started becoming familiar with tracking apps like MyFitnessPal, and I was just like taking in a lot of outside information about nutrition that I hadn't previously done. And I think those things started to shape like how I was eating, the choices I was making in food. And I'd say I also felt a little bit of like embarrassment at myself prior to this. I started thinking,
Why do you say that?
I just started noticing like, oh, I can't believe I I can't believe I used to eat that. Now that I was exposed to different
Uh,
media saying it was bad. And I think I just got super into following a ton of Instagram pages that were just like the healthy pages that I wanted to pursue. And I'd say I did it from a place of wanting, like thinking that it would improve my performance in sports. So it didn't always start out being about body image for me. I think it was more thinking that I was doing something healthy. And then I would notice as I began to lose some weight, I started liking that and getting positive reinforcement about it from people. And that was kind of where I started to think like, oh, I guess this is better for me. Better as in like not truly better, but just like in that moment. Um, and I think that pattern just like went on for a few years.
So I want to really pick at the point that you shared because I think it's really powerful of like it came from a good place. Because honestly, Morgan's saying like whenever I started to care more about nutrition and health, it came from this really authentic, like good place where I was like, I just want to take care of myself. And you mentioned both like the starting to lose weight, but also the positive reinforcement that happened as the weight loss occurred. That's
Yeah.
when things started to shift and it became a little bit more body image focused. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. I I think I was unfamiliar for a while about like societal views on body. I never was exposed to that in high school of just like seeing what people thought was pretty. And then once it was getting the positive reinforcement, I think that started to build me up to think like, oh, this must be what people desire, what people see is more beautiful for me in this space. And yeah, I do think for so long it was out of a place of good. It was just trusting like these sources that this was going to be healthier for me.
Yeah. So then it sounds like 3 years in, you lost your period. Tell me about like losing your period. What did you think about that? Were your habits even more so disordered at that point? Were they just like a consistent like 3 years of not eating enough? Like, what was that like losing your period? Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, I think it was a consistent 3 years of not eating enough, but it definitely got worse as I found different trends of low calorie foods. And I just started replacing everything in my diet with those things. I went vegan for a while, which I just thought was the healthier route for me at that point. And I think that contributed a bit to it. I was just eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, which is great, but I wasn't really getting carbs or a lot of protein. Um, and when I lost my period, I brought it up to my sports nutritionist and we just talked through it. And I got the feedback a lot that it was super normal for athletes. It's nothing to worry about. And I just let it be. It didn't, I was in college. It was kind of nice to not have it for a while. And I had received that feedback probably 3 or 4 times. And by the third time, I think I had done my own research and had thought like, oh, I think this is because of things I'm struggling with food. But I felt like that on its own also was something for me where I was like, oh, this is good. Like I'm achieving this, even though it wasn't at all. But that also served as like positive reinforcement that I was getting what I wanted.
Yeah, no, I so appreciate you saying that. I'm over here like nodding my head so much because I think there's such truth to how we feel validated losing our period. It's like, I'm
Yeah.
doing this the hardest, the best. I lost my
Mhm.
period from it. And I just think it's important to be like really honest about that. Like we all have felt that before, those of us who have lost our periods at least. And
Yeah.
especially hearing and knowing, having worked with you, that like no one really saw it as a big deal. No one really did anything about it. It kind of allows, especially at such a young age, for you to really not think twice about it. I think that's really fair and really, again, honest to what most of us experience. So, what then happens like after college? What's life like after college? Do we continue to have period loss? Walk me through kind of that journey leading up to where you're starting to be like, oh, shoot, this is an actual problem.
Yeah. So After college, still have period loss for a while. I actually moved home to live with my mom for a little bit as I was job searching. And in that time being home, just eating home cooked meals, wasn't like meal prepping my own stuff. And
Less
after,
control over the
yeah,
diet.
control. After a while, I got my cycle back for maybe 3 months while I was living home. And like, I'll be honest, that it hurt me because I knew that it was because I was gaining weight, because I had seen
Mhm.
the trend of like my weight going up, getting my period back. And then after that, I moved away again. Once I got a job, moved back to Texas, and I was like working out back on my own meal planning. I lost my period again. And this is ha that happened one more time. Um, where I got my period for 2 or 3 cycles and then lost it. And in between, I'd lose it for a year or two. So I did notice that like I could get my period
Mhm.
at a higher weight than I wanted to be at, but it was never really important to me to get it until I knew that I wanted to have kids. In like that college and right after college stage, yeah, I mean, I always told it was because I was super fit, and that was, in my mind, good for that season.
hmm
Yeah.
I think you're speaking to a really common experience, though, where really and truly until it affects a big dream of ours, like for you, Morgan, I know becoming a mom is something that's just so important to you. It's a big dream of yours. It is fair to say that, like, hey, it's not that big of a concern. What I think is not the problem is not you and, our brains don't have the capacity at 20 years old to understand the repercussions. But I
Right,
feel like the medical team around you should have been like, hey, no, this is, common in athletes. However, there are long-term consequences to period loss. And that's where I feel like they did you a disservice there.
right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So started to become more concerning to you as you were, it was like right after you got married, right? And so let's kind of like, now that we're at that point, walk us through that because that's when things really started to pick up. You started seeing doctors about it. Let's dig in there.
Yes. So probably 3 months before my wedding, I was getting my period at that time. And I decided, like most brides, like I was gonna go through a pretty strict, just like exercise a ton, eat really healthy, yeah, before the wedding. And I did that. And I still had my period. And then I was someone who wanted to have babies right when I got married. So right after we got married, we were going to start trying. And I did have my period, but my period went away probably 2 months into that. And I was just convinced I was pregnant. I had taken so many pregnancy tests and they were all negative, but I was like, well, there's no period. I must be. And that was really dark and hard for me. And I went to doctors and they would be like, "Oh, let's test you." And I'm like, "I don't think I am. Like, I think something else is wrong." And yeah, I think at that moment it kind of hit me of like, no, this probably is just my period going away again.
Mhm.
Uh, and yeah, that was like a hard shift for me. But I started seeing a few different doctors, kind of just searching for answers. And in that, I was doing so much research of my own. So I would go to my primary care provider with a sheet of notes and just ask her, "Hey, will you run all of these labs for me?" And she did, and there was like a little bit of hesitancy. Like she had told me, "Hey, there's really no reason to run these labs," and I was like, "Well, I want to see all these numbers." And then she sent me to my OB, which I went to, and or I guess my OBGYN. But that doctor also ran some more labs, and they had told me my hormones were really, really low. And the suggestion was to put me on like a cycle of a ovulation inducer, I think.
Okay.
Is that something that's a
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They like
okay?
wanted to induce ovulation for you. Gotcha.
Yeah. And they told me that they thought my body would just kind of click back into making the hormones. So we tried that and it didn't work. And I was just really sad. And they referred me to an endocrinologist. And I started going there, but every time I went in, I was going weekly and getting sonograms. And every time I went in, they had something new to say that was super disheartening to me. Like they would tell me, kind of freak out and say, "Oh, your hormones are so low. Like, I don't know what's going on." Um, they told me right away, I had gone in and asked, like, I really just want to figure out how to get my period back. I'm not necessarily looking to do IVF or anything right now. I just want to figure out my hormones. And I think from the start, they were telling me, like, oh, you're a great IVF candidate. And that really hurt me because I'm like a mid 20-year-old just trying to get a period. But um, yeah, eventually it was every appointment I was coming in and they were telling me something else is wrong and just putting me on progesterone or other hormones. And I think I got to the point where I felt like we were just like throwing a ton of stuff at my body. And I like having knowledge of what's not working or why it's not working
Mm-hmm.
versus just that it's not working. And in this time, I was doing a ton of research about my labs. So I got my labs back. I saw that all my numbers were low. So I started looking up like what all these low numbers mean. And I got to HA. And I was like doing a ton of Google searching and everything fit what I'd experienced. Like one of the common things is like overexercise or under eating, past eating disorders. And I felt like it was everything I'd struggled with was in a box right in front of me. And then obviously I found your page and started sending you a ton of DMs, just like asking. And I specifically remember after I'd gone to the appointment with the endocrinologist and he was like, you have no uterine lining. I remember DMing you and just saying like, hey, they just told me this. I'm freaking out. And being like so scared that I was doomed when he had said that. But just like so reassuring to know there's like a way to get out of it.
Yeah, if I remember those DM conversations correctly, because they were quite a while ago, but if
Yeah.
I remember being okay, how do you tell someone like it's all just because you need to like you have HA and you need to heal that? Like, why is your endocrinologist not talking to you about something that could be so simple to fix? And yet
Yeah.
being so, I remember it felt like they were like freaking you out about your uterine
Oh, yeah.
or low hormones. They kept telling you IVF was like a possibility for you. And I just felt like no one, I was like, why is no one addressing like the elephant in the room? Like, there's obviously a clear answer as to why this is happening, yet no
Yeah.
one else addressed that with you. Is that right?
Yeah. And I had asked, once I started thinking through and doing my own Google search, I had asked my doctor if it could be because of like low body fat. And they had told me, no, you look fine. Like you're not too skinny. And so then I
Like
remember being,
every
yes,
time it was, oh,
yes. So I was like, okay, like I guess. And n none of my doctors really checked about my eating habits, about my exercise habits. It was never in the conversation. So I think that when I brought it up and they said like, no, that's not it, that then I was like, oh, okay. Like it made me doubt my own searching. But yeah,
when in reality you were spot on and you knew exactly what you had. You discover it. You're the one you found the answers yourself. And I think
yeah,
that's incredible that you advocated for yourself despite almost some like hesitancy from the many doctors that you've seen to like really get the support you deserve. And I am kind of curious to hear like what made you finally decide to be like, okay, like this is worth actually investing in, this is worth me getting the support. What made you decide to go from just like following or just researching to being like, no, I need a plan and I need support?
yeah. So probably 2 months before we started meeting together, I was trying to do it on my own and just like increase the food I was eating. And I was using my husband as my accountability, which is really tough as a newly married couple because it puts him in a position of having to tell me to eat more, but I'm probably going to get frustrated at him for that, even though we want the same thing. It's just a tough scenario to be in. And I just feel like it didn't work for us. I also think my husband's great, but it's hard when he's not around or doesn't really know what I need to be eating. So
Mhm.
like what
I mean, he's
looked like
not a fertility period recovery expert. Like,
right.
how would he even know
Right.
what to tell you to eat?
Yeah, and he was so used to me eating really little that even if I increased my plate by a little bit, that was looking great to him, but it wasn't actually what I needed. And I feel like one of the biggest things when we started working together was the food logs. Because I
Hmm.
remember maybe a month in, we tried to like tame them out, and I was like, I need the accountability to show like, hey, I'm eating this plate. Because to me, it was like having the accountability is what actually made me eat the food I needed to versus just kind of like thinking I was. And that is like, I think that's a part of it is when I was trying to do it my own, I thought I was eating so much, but I really wasn't
Yeah, because you're
enough to
eating,
recover.
yeah, you were eating so much more than you were before, but you had no idea where you needed to go. So there's really
Yeah.
no way to know. Like, yeah, it may be more, but that doesn't mean it's enough to meet the goals either.
Yeah.
You've been told you need to gain weight, stop exercising, or do IVF to get pregnant with no period. What if I told you that's not actually true? You're tracking your food, working out, trying everything to be healthy, but your period is still missing. And now, pregnancy, it feels impossible. I know exactly how that feels because I've helped hundreds of women get their period back and get pregnant naturally. Inside my free training, I'm walking you through the exact 5-step method that's helped women like Lex, Lauren, and Stephanie restore their fertility in 90 days or less without extreme weight gain or giving up on movement. You'll learn what's really causing your missing period, why food freedom is essential for fertility, and the customized approach that actually works, even if you've tried everything. If your dream is to see two pink lines and hold a baby in your arms, this training, it's your first step. Click the link in the show notes to watch the free training. It's time to restore your period, your fertility, and your hope. Now, let's get back to today's episode.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And if there's one thing I remember Morgan so vividly about when we first started working together, it was like, we are not eating enough, like that nearly
Yes.
enough. How did
Yeah.
that feel to be told that and to receive that kind of information and to begin then implementing that?
Yeah, I think it's weird because you usually know it. Like coming in, I knew I wasn't eating enough, but to have you verbally say it to me, I remember feeling almost like refreshed, but also kind of like, oh, like you're hiding for so long in this shell of how you're doing things and what you make normal, but to have someone call you out and say, hey, you're not eating enough is like it's good for you, but it hurts a little bit because you feel exposed.
Yeah, yeah. And like you said a little bit ago, like there's just no way both your husband can know that, but also he can't really support you through that. I'm
Right.
gonna say it's doubtful that he's ever been through his own disordered eating journey. So, what I find a lot of times when clients will say about their husbands that they're like, why not just gain some weight and eat more? But they don't understand how emotionally devastating that can be to make those changes. And like having someone who gets that is like, yeah, it is the worst. And here's what we're gonna do about it. We're gonna support
Right.
you every step of the way. It makes it actually doable, I think.
Yeah. Yes, I agree.
So what do you think was the biggest changes that working together allowed for you to get such quick results? Because you got your period back in 11 weeks.
Okay, so I think one, the accountability. I think also I'm someone who's always struggled with a bit of health anxiety and just had so many
Hmm.
questions. And it was so helpful for me to sit on a one-on-one and talk through all the things I was feeling. And I think, yeah, I don't know if I can share like if this will, but I think one of mine was I always thought like if I increased food, that would lead to like me developing diabetes or something. Like if I was eating carbs, I saw them as so bad. And I think we debunked that so many times, but it's so helpful to me to just be able to talk through it because that was such a big fear of mine and have the support and the knowledge behind like no, this is what we're doing. Carbs aren't terrible. This is like super helpful for your body. Just being able to talk through the fears that I felt with it. Because I do think it's really scary to just make this drastic change.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I relate on a personal level because I had a lot of my own health anxiety when I was recovering. But Morgan, I remember so many times the amount of times we would talk about the fear of, basically like the worst case scenario. What happens if I become this version of myself that I don't even recognize? And I'm so scared of developing diabetes and all these health
Yeah.
issues. And I just think that it speaks to not only the need for like a specific plan and the accountability, but also the support. Because for you, as is true for all the people we work with, like it's not just like, oh, eating this is easy and normal for me. It's like, no, like there's years of anxieties that have been there that have developed. And we didn't get into this too much today, and we don't really need to, but like your health anxieties weren't just developing in college, like they had really been there for a really long time.
Yeah.
So we had years, basically a whole lifetime to debunk of what you viewed as healthy versus what you didn't view as healthy, and really reframing your perspective on what health meant, including like a nourished body and a nourished body that gets a period and your body telling you, hey, you're healthy, you're getting what you need. Because for you, it was never the exercise. Like at the point, at least in which we started working together, you'd already really cut back on the exercise. It was
Yeah.
really the food that we had a lot of work to do.
Right. Yeah.
So, what was that like getting your first recovery period?
Oh, it was amazing. I think that starting working with you, I always had the doubt in my mind that I would be the person that didn't.
Yeah, yeah. I always hear everyone's always like, I'm going to
Yeah.
be the exception. It won't work for me.
Yes. So that was so scary for me of thinking like, oh, I just think like I might be the one that doesn't. And I remember getting close to the 90 days and there's like some moments where I was like, oh, it just felt like a ticking time of like, oh, this is when I should get it back. But yeah, I just remember like that first day being so excited and just relieved of like, okay, like I know this can work. And it also just puts like some fruit to all the work of you're like, it is scary. And I had to put on weight that I was uncomfortable with and just go through the motions of like being super full and trying to, like getting new clothes and just not feeling super confident in my growing body. But then to see, like, to get a period, it makes it all worth it. And then I think there's a fear for me of like, what if I gain all this weight and that's not the solution to my problem?
Mhm.
But once I got my period, I was like, okay, it's all worth it. Like this was what I needed to do. So I think just seeing the fruit come from the work.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I think you just spoke really beautifully there to like why having consistent accountability and support is so necessary, because the small little things that maybe no one else really gets, but we get because we get each other, the changing of the clothes and the changing of the body and the eating more and dealing with the fullness. You just spoke so beautifully to all those little things that can happen along the way that I think most people, maybe you even did that first 2 months when you were trying on your own to do, is like you'll try it, but then you kind of come up against an obstacle and it feels so overwhelming that you just go
Yeah.
right back to old ways. And I would almost argue, I don't know how someone gets through that without help.
Right.
Like I just
Yeah.
legitimately don't know how that's possible, because it is at the end of the day about the disordered eating, the health anxiety, as much as it is just simply like we need to eat more and give our body more rest. But that's easier said than done when there's this history and there's this anxiety there that exists that really needs to be dealt with and confronted in order to make that happen.
Mhm. Yeah.
So you had something so exciting happen. Share with us what happened the second time you ovulated. So you ovulated, you got period, ovulated, then what happened?
But then I got pregnant, which is amazing. And I still feel like I'm in shock. Like it happened so quick, which we talked about was a possibility. But again, I think I always had just thought like it's not going to be me. Like also going to the doctor and having them, one of the last appointments I had, they had told me I had a ton of scar tissue buildup that would like potentially need to get surgically removed. And that was the last appointment I ever went to. So I never dealt with that. But I figured like, oh, I'll get my period back. And then if I don't get pregnant, then I can address what that is. So I think when I got pregnant, I was like, oh wow, like this, like this worked, that fear of like everything that was in my head kind of sunk away, which is amazing. And I can't believe it happened so fast. And I feel like that day, so it was the second time I ovulated, but I just like didn't think it was my period or it was pregnant at all. I thought my period was just coming really late.
I do
So
remember this. I remember being
yeah,
like, your basal body temperature continues to rise. I think I know
yeah,
what's going on, but I was like waiting. I was like, think you should go take a pregnancy test.
yeah. And when you had said that, I was just rereading through our messages with my husband a few weeks ago because we are just talking about how crazy it is that like every time he's been checking in a ton as I've been pregnant of like, how are you feeling with your body changing? And I'm like, I feel so great because I know like this was what was necessary. Like I'm so excited to carry this life. And like it just like makes me happy to be in a different body than I was and to know that my body is like well nourished and that it's growing a baby and just like such a cool experience. But we're reading back in the messages and I remember flying home to Texas and I was supposed to take a pregnancy test that next morning and you and I were going to meet that afternoon. So I was like, I have to take it because I told her I would, but I really didn't want to. And I just remember like going and seeing it was like immediately the cross line was on, and I was like, no, this like cannot be real, but it's like the best feeling ever.
The best feeling ever. And all the obstacles and challenges and the doctor's appointments and the everything and made it worth it to get to this point, didn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So you are now 26 weeks pregnant. You got pregnant on your second ovulatory period, which is not always what happens. You're right. That was definitely quick. And I just think it speaks to you were such a great implementer, Morgan. You did such a phenomenal job of when I gave you the plan, you went all in and you went for it.
Mhm.
Yes, I think the accountability and all the layers of support would give you helped you with that, but you also took action and made that possible and
Yeah.
you got the quick results because of that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
how has your pregnancy been thus far, up to 26 weeks, which is where you are now?
Yeah. It's been really good. It's so fun. I love just like tracking along with what happens each week is insane to think of your body just builds like a new organ and a baby from scratch and it's just such a cool thing and it's so fun to experience and it's been good. I will say I still have like moments of some health anxiety stuff, but um I mean, I think that's something that I'm like working through
Yeah.
regardless of HA. But yeah, it's been really good. I feel like probably one of the key things right now, except like the benefits of working together, not just the being pregnant, but I felt like it has put me in such a good place working through just like my thoughts on body image going into pregnancy because I can't imagine being in the space I was before and seeing my body change so much.
Right, right. Like no
Yeah.
one ever talks about that. I couldn't agree more, where it's like, how do you legitimately gain a lot of weight in pregnancy when you're terrified to even gain 2 pounds in when you're struggling with HA? Like
Yeah.
you have to, I think you have to go through all of that and really come to terms with that before you can truly get pregnant, both from like a body's just safe perspective, but also your mental, emotional safety too, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I just can't imagine if I were to get pregnant when I was struggling. Like I would have hated every moment of that. And
Right.
that would have been so sad.
Yeah, and we even talk about just being in a place where I'm so excited to nourish the baby and eat foods that I know are just like helping grow. And we think back to like, oh, if I was in that place, I think that would have been hard for me, even though it's like you care so much about the life inside of you. But that is like such a heavy weight on your shoulders to be able to work through that in the middle of like the emotions of being pregnant and all the hormones. And yeah, it's like served us really well and just been such a relief.
Yeah, we didn't even talk that much about that. But yeah, the fertility nutrition and the foods we encourage consuming, the supplements and the hair tissue mineral analysis, like all those things are why too you probably are having such a phenomenal pregnancy and feeling really good because your body is truly nourished in every way possible, from the HA recovery, from the foods that you're consuming, like just every piece of the puzzle was addressed so that you can feel the way you do right now.
Yeah. And one of the other huge things I think is amazing is when we were working together and introduced a ton of fear foods of mine. Well, my first trimester of pregnancy, I lived off of my old fear foods, like the pasta and just bread and butter. All of those foods were really the only things that I could eat. And I was just like, if I hadn't gotten over these fear foods before, this would be really, really hard for me to go through first trimester. So that was, I mean, that was just awesome to not have to feel that like guilt or fear about eating the only thing that's like sitting in your stomach.
Girl, same. My first trimester of both pregnancies, so rough. I lived off of
Yeah.
like bread, pasta, and like fruit and like sour.
Oh,
Fruit. That was
same.
all I could eat. And I, same as you, Morgan, every time I'd be like, I don't know how I would have done this if I still had disordered eating because
Yeah.
I'm just living off of straight carbs.
Oh, same.
As I always say to my clients, and I'll say to anyone listening who fears that, is like, you have to trust your body. If it's telling you just to eat carbs in the first trimester, you listen. Like, there's a reason why it happens. And again, it's that another layer in trust. It also makes me think, and you're not quite there yet, Morgan, but the postpartum, right? Like, can you imagine going through the body image changes that are inevitable in the postpartum because your body is changing. You just gave birth to human life. I mean, it's so incredible what your body just did. Your body's
Yeah.
going to change. Like, imagine going through that without having first dealt with your relationship with your body.
Right. Yeah.
What would you say to someone who's listening who's like, okay, I am ready to get my period back so that I can get pregnant? Like, I want to be pregnant now, but I'm scared. What would you say to them?
Um, I mean, I would just say it's so worth it when you see the fruit of the work that you do. It is scary from the front end, but if you can just think about like what it'll feel like to get your period back or what it'll feel like to be pregnant and what it'll feel like to hold a baby, which I'm not there yet, but I think that is like my biggest place of gratitude and I just think of it all the time. Like this is truly what I have done in our marriage so far that has like put me in the best place for what I feel like my purpose is. And like we've always wanted to have a family with a lot of kids. And I felt like right when we got married and then seeing like, oh, can this happen was so scary. But just being able to be like, it can with the work is so motivating and just like encouraging to like look and be like, okay, people have done this and this works, and to have someone that walks alongside you. So I think the best thing or like my biggest piece of advice is just to think about like what can be because it is hard in the beginning. And then don't wait too long, like re-get your favorite clothes in the bigger size because it's just you don't need to keep trying to put on your favorite pair of sweatpants that don't fit anymore. Just get them in a bigger size and you'll be so happy.
It will be so worth it.
Yes, yeah.
What would you say to someone who's like, okay, I want the support, I want the experience that you had, but I feel almost like I'm scared to trust someone to join me in the journey. I'm scared to let someone in. I'm scared to invest in myself because, like you said, Morgan, there was a little bit of that, like, what if I'm the exception? What if this doesn't work for me? What would you say to that person?
Yeah, I feel like one, honestly, that's a good question. The the what if you're the exception? That is like such a hard thing. And I do like, do you know what percentage of people get their period back?
95%.
Okay. Yeah. So I feel like you have to get out of like you have to think of it as like, okay, 95% get their period back. And
Yeah.
like imagine yourself in that 95%. Because I catch myself even in pregnancy when I hear something that's like, 95% of this. And then I still think like, oh, what if I'm the 5%?
hmm And I think
Um,
that speaks to just like the HA mind, right? The perfectionist, the
oh
type
yeah.
A, the like the things that we all struggle with. Those of us who've been through this at least have.
Yeah. Um, but this is I think going in, wanting to be pregnant, going into it, this is the best investment you can make for yourself because I mean, my stance is if you're going to a doctor and supplemented hormones to get pregnant, you'll probably have to do it in your next one. I don't know if that's
Yep.
accurate. So you can
Statistically
correct me if I'm
true.
wrong.
Very true. Yep.
Yeah. But if you heal the like disordered eating that you struggle with, or the overexercise, or these things, it's just like nice to know and see your body is capable of healing and just like trust that your body knows how to heal. Um, yeah, I just think investing in that part of it is and just like being able to see like, oh, my body is capable of this, and my body's capable of having a period and getting pregnant and reproducing, and just like being able to discover that is so cool.
Yeah. The power of your beautiful body. A nourished body is a powerful one, as we always say. And I think I don't want to point out something you said right there because I think it was really powerful. Whether it's fertility medication, IUI, IVF, it can't solve the root cause of your period loss. And the thing that I always think about as someone who works exclusively with HA women is, like, yes, you could do it to get pregnant one time, but then we're talking about what do we do after every other pregnancy? What do we do to get our period back in the postpartum? What do we do like after kids? What do we do about bone loss and the impacts
Yeah.
to our, not only our bones, but our brain, our heart, our relationship with food, the relationship that we pass on to our kids because they are watching us,
Yeah.
just how you feel on a daily basis. Like truly solving one problem solves basically every problem in your
Yeah.
life. And if you can look at it from that perspective, it really is a case of like there's nothing to lose, but only to
Yeah.
gain from
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah. And going to the bathroom. It's
Yes.
like that one's huge too. Yeah.
Oh, we didn't even talk about that, Morgan. Yes,
I
going to the
know.
bathroom is so much easier for you now, too.
Yes. Yeah, it's so much easier.
Even in the pregnancy, too, has that been true for you?
No, not so much during pregnancy, but
Pregnancy is a difficult one.
yeah, I think that's just it was in the like once I entered my second trimester, it got kind of hard. But I mean, I used to live on laxatives prior to like doing our work, and that was I just remember like being able to go to the bathroom being so excited because that was so frustrating for so long. But I definitely like I don't live on laxatives at all right now. Like I can go, but pregnancy constipation is real too.
Yes. Yeah. There's only so much you can do about the raging hormones that's causing the constipation you're
Yeah.
experiencing right now.
Yeah.
But afterwards, your body will be good to go. Well, Morgan, this conversation has been incredible. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to share your story. I appreciate it so, so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Morgan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. Thank you, my incredible community, for listening to today's episode. If you feel so inspired by listening to Morgan's story and you want this experience for yourself, you are ready to get your period back so that you can get pregnant, I encourage you to reach out now for one of our fall spots inside of Premier Period Recovery for Fertility, where you'll have the exact same experience Morgan shared with us today. Remember, you are worthy of investing in yourself in order to reach your goals of becoming a mama. It is so much closer than you think. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast episode. As always, we'll be back for another episode next week. Until then, know that a nourished body is a powerful one.